Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 13, Brahma, Stealing the Boys and Calves, text number 46. Tavat Save Vatsapala, Pasyato Jasya Tatkshanat, Vyadrisyanta Ganashama, Pita Koshaya Vasashaha. Just do the word for word. Tavat, so long. Save, or Vatsapalaha, both the calves and the boys tending them. Pasyataha, while he was watching. Ajasya, of Lord Brahma. Tatshanat, immediately. Vyadrishyanta, were seen. Gana Shamaha, as having a complexion resembling bluish rain clouds. Pita Koshaya Vasasaha, and dressed in yellow silk garments. Purport, translation by Srila Prabhupada. Then, while Lord Brahma looked on, all the calves and boys tending them immediately appeared to have complexions the color of bluish rain clouds, and to be dressed in yellow silken garments. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. While Brahma was contemplating, all the calves and cowherd boys immediately transformed into Vishnu Murtis, having bluish complexions and wearing yellow garments. Brahma was contemplating his own power and the immense unlimited power of Krishna. But before he could come to a conclusion, he saw this immediate transformation. Umaganatimirandasya gananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam jena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Scha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishavanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpa Triviyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayati Gurun Jat Kripata Maham Vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam.
Till 9:30, please be careful.
Or did I go too long yesterday? Or not long enough? I went too long?
Well, we got away with it.
We got away with it. Okay, so here we are. This is at a pivotal point in this Leela where Brahma is confounded by the fact that when he comes back on the scene, after he stole away all the calves and all the cowherd boys, one moment later, in his time, a year has passed in earthly time, and he sees no difference. Everything's just as he left it. And he's quite perplexed by that. And of course, Krishna, being omniscient, knows this. And to really teach Brahma a big lesson, we see this pivot from verse 45 to 46, where Brahma's looking on the scene, and then all of a sudden the scene transforms in a way which completely perplexes him. He's totally dumbfounded and realizes the total insignificance. On the one hand, the total insignificance of the potency that he had in order to be able to steal away the calves and the cowherd boys and hide them and then come back. And on top of that, in the process of what proceeds from here, he sees all these Vishnu forms manifesting, and then he sees all kinds of forms manifesting from them. The scene of the cowherd boys and the calves and Krishna and him stealing them away. He sees it being duplicated over and over and over again in the potencies of these Vishnu forms. He understands these Vishnu forms are expansions, direct expansions of Krishna. And he sees himself in it, and he sees his total insignificance in the scheme of everything. That and his understanding that whatever tiny potency he has is all coming actually from the Lord. No one has any potency to do anything unless, as it says, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. Unless the Lord agrees to something happening, it doesn't happen. And when he wants something to happen, there's nothing can stand in the way. And this kind of bewilderment can come upon, we see, Lord Brahma is the most elevated demigod, way up above all the others. We have Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. All the other demigods, beginning down from Indra, the king of heaven, and all the functional demigods that administrate the universe, they're all under Brahma. And whatever potencies they have are provided by the Lord. They're all empowered entities. So we see in this story, and later on, in the story of Govardhan Puja, how actually great devotees. Lord Brahma has his own sampradaya. He's the head of our sampradaya. We have the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, the sampradaya that brings this teaching down and through the connection with the Madhva Sampradaya and then facilitates the appearance of Lord Chaitanya, is Lord Brahma's sampradaya. He's a highly elevated personality. And then we have Indra, the king of heaven, also a devotee. But we see in both cases, no one, no matter how potent they may be, no matter how much influence and power they may have in the world, can forget that the source of their power is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I think probably the most el flagrante exhibition of that is with Indra. I mean, if you think about how Kamsa sends demons into Vrindavan to kill Krishna, and Krishna deals with each one of them, they come specifically to kill Krishna. But when Krishna pulls the rug out from under Indra by convincing Maharaj Nanda to perform Govardhan Puja instead of Indra Puja, Indra completely loses all composure due to his attachment and therefore his anger after frustration. And he actually does something that it's so totally demoniac. He sends all the clouds to inundate Vrindavan and destroy everything and everyone, not just Krishna. He wants to just destroy everyone in Vrindavan. And strangely enough, Krishna doesn't kill him. I mean, if anyone deserved to be taken out for what they did, it's Indra. But Krishna, uh, Dharma samstapanato, he comes to reestablish principles of religion and the status quo of the universe with the demigods in their position is something that would be hugely disrupted if he'd taken physical action against Indra. So then we have that sequence in the Krishna book now in the Bhagavatam where the Sarabhi cow comes and offers her prayer and induces Krishna to forgive Indra, which he does, and he hears Indra's prayers and then sends him back to heaven. But what we have to keep in mind in regard to that is when Krishna grows up and goes and establishes Dwarka, he goes with Satyavati to the heavenly planets. Now, in terms of, like with Brahma, it's a moment later in his time and a year has passed. So I can't remember the exact calculation between the heavenly planets and Earth time. But in terms of Krishna probably grows up from, he's 7 years old when he lives Govardhan Hill, and he's probably in his early 20s when he's married to Satyavati and he goes to Indraloka. So that amounts to about 2 weeks or 3 weeks in Indra's time. And he's just been through what he's been through with Krishna after the Govardhan incident. And then here he is, he shows up with his wife in the heavenly planets. He's fated by everybody. And then he takes the Parijata flower, and Indra is incensed by that and attacks him. And there's this huge battle goes on in outer space just a couple of weeks later. So the influence of the illusory energy over the conditioned soul, no matter what their standing is within the scheme of things, is actually insurmountable. Anyone can completely fall into illusion at any moment, and one should not ever think that that's not possible. There's also the story in the 8th canto of how the demigods and the demons, they make a truce and they churn the ocean of milk, and all kinds of things come up out of the ocean of milk, beginning with the poison, and Lord Shiva drinks it and holds an ocean of poison in his throat. Then Lord Indra's elephant and his thunderbolt come up out of that, and eventually Dhanvantari appears with the elixir of immortality. And then there's a whole negotiation about how we're going to distribute this. And Krishna appears as Mohini Murti, the most beautiful woman, and completely bewitches and bewilders the demons and cheats them out of it all. But in the meantime, Lord Shiva, he becomes completely overwhelmed with lust for Mohini Murti. It has no idea who he's dealing with because the Lord's illusion is so complete. And he's chasing her through this assembly. Lord Shiva, greatly renounced soul. And he's totally sexually aroused. And it explains that he actually, well, it's in the Bhagavatam, so I'll say it. So he's ejaculating into the air, huge showers of semen, and they turn into liquid gold and silver and platinum and copper, and they shower down through the universe. And that's where all the veins of copper and gold and platinum and everything come from in the universe. And then he becomes aware of what a show what an embarrassment he's brought upon himself in the presence of not just the demigods, but the demons as well. Anybody who's anybody is in the universe is there observing this. But then a very interesting thing is explained that he comes to his senses and then he assumed his original position and did not lament. Did not lament. Because he realized this is the bewildering potency of the Lord, and anyone can come under it. Anyone. No one is free from the influence of the bewildering potencies of the Lord. So we can understand, therefore, the need for humility in devotional life, because at any moment one can fall prey to the relentless onslaught of material energy. Prabhupada describes in one letter, very early in his writings, he describes the pitiless intrigues of Maya. Pitiless intrigues of Maya. And then the phrase he uses so often is the relentless onslaught of the material energy. So long as one is within a material body, living in a material body, it is advised that one conduct oneself as a neophyte, with the awareness that I'm in the wholesome situation I'm in purely by the protection of the Lord. And if I step outside of the protection of the Lord and act whimsically, then I can interrupt my devotional service. And Prabhupada says, be careful of that, because that interruption may take many millions of lifetimes. But actually, in the real scheme of things, it may take millions of creations to get back to where you were, to pick up the thread again. Excuse me. Excuse me. So there's a very salutary lesson in this, that one has to have faith in the reality of the instructions of the Lord when he says, you just abandon all forms of religion and just surrender to me. Just surrender to me. Because earlier we see, he said, Devi Yesha Gunamai Mama Maya Durat Yaya. Everyone in this material world is under the influence of this divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature. Durat Yaya. It's very difficult, impossible for us to overcome the influence of the three modes of material nature. And we can fall completely under the influence of the modes of material nature even from very elevated positions within the process and practice of devotional service. That's the inherent point in the story of Bharat Maharaj. He was in the stage of bhava, but he became attracted to the deer that was aborted by the mother when a lion roared while the mother was drinking from the river. She was so startled and frightened from that, she jumped into the air, aborted the foal, and drowned. And he came and rescued the foal. And he took it back to his ashram, and he nurtured it. What do they say? With a baby, what do they say? What's the word? I lost the word. He
Adopted.
Huh?
Adopted.
He copped it.
Adopted.
He adopted it, but he looked after it as a baby.
Nurtures.
He nurtured.
Yeah.
He nurtured, he nourished. And then he became totally attached to this deer, to the point where all he could think about was the deer. and he forgot all about his spiritual practices and fell completely in love with the deer. And then in that state, he died thinking of that deer, and he had to take the body of a deer. Of course, that's all part of a salutary story for our edification. That's why it's in the Bhagavatam. So he was given the benediction that he could remember his previous situation and act accordingly. But we should not take this as something that is there for granted, that we can, as they say, stray off the straight and narrow. You can interrupt your devotional service to the Lord for an incredible amount of time. And in that incredible amount of time, you have to pass through one temporary situation of miserable conditions, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. So this exhibition that Krishna's giving Brahma is to relieve him of any sense of pride in his situation, because he only has the power he has to do what he has done by virtue of the Lord empowering him to do it. And that also applies in our field of preaching. There's a verse which explains, unless one is empowered by the Lord, one cannot preach and spread Krishna consciousness. But the empowerment comes by this simple process of practicing total dependence on the Lord and becoming the Lord's instrument, praying to be the instrument of the Lord, not thinking I'm the doer. Krishna is the doer, always. Krishna is the doer. There's a very captivating story that what's his name? Bhakti Tirtha Swami. Bhakti Tirtha Swami. He tells a story of how on Prabhupada's last visit to London, he was preaching in the former Yugoslavia, and he used to send a monthly report every year, or a monthly report every year, a monthly report every month to Srila Prabhupada, and the secretary would read it to him. So when he heard that Srila Prabhupada was taking this trip to London, he went to London. And he got there about the same time. And Tamar Krishna Maharaj was the permanent secretary at that stage. And he said to Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he was Ghanshyam Brahmachari then. He wasn't Bhakti Tirtha Swami. He was Ghanshyam Brahmachari. Wonderful devotee. He showed up at Bhaktivedanta Manor, and Tamar Krishna Maharaj said, oh, actually your report came just before we left, and I didn't get a chance to read it to Srila Prabhupada. And why don't you come in and read it? Come into the darshan room and read it to Prabhupada. So he said, I was so proud, and I'm going to read my report to Prabhupada directly. So he went in, and Prabhupada was sitting, and he was surrounded by his secretaries and different people. And then Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj started reading his report, saying what he'd been doing, what results he'd got. And he said Prabhupada wasn't paying any attention. He was looking around the room and said something to somebody and looked at things on his desk and just wasn't paying any attention to him. And all of a sudden, Prabhupada just looked directly at him and said, Krishna is the doer, and sat back. And Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj says, he said he was wrong. And he thought, well, what do I do? So he went on reading. And he's reading on and on. Prabhupada just the same, paid no attention to him. And then at a certain point leaned in and said, Krishna is the doer. And he said I think it happened 3 times. And he really took that as such an important lesson in his life as a devotee and as a preacher, that Not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. And did I tell the story? My godbrother died the other day. Charu died the other day. Did I tell anyone the story about Charu and me? Charu was the temple president in the Melbourne temple when I started visiting the temple. And Charu was such a wonderful preacher, powerful and eloquent and erudite, compassionate, all good qualities. So I used to go to the morning program at the temple, and I'd stay right through till the end of breakfast. So I'd be there for Bhagavatam class, and whenever Charu gave class, I was just hanging on every word, just loved it. And I just developed this desire. I want to be like him. I want to preach like he does. So after I moved into the temple, after a few months, my job was just cleaning the temple. And so one day I was cleaning the hallway outside his office, and he came out to go somewhere, and he saw me. He said, "Oh, Dr. Richard, why don't you come with me? And I've got to do some errands. We can get to know each other a bit." So I thought, "Oh, okay." So there I am, with you. He's my hero. I'm sitting in this car, we're driving around. I was like a kid with big eyes. And oh, God, this is Charu. I'm sitting with Charu. He wants to get to know me. So I said to him through Charu, "I really love your preaching. I really love the way you preach." I said, "I would like to become a preacher like you." And this is like 52 years ago. And it just stuck with me, right? He said, well, he didn't like act proud or anything. He just kept driving, watching the road. And he said, "Well, Dr. Richard," he said, "one thing, if you want to be a preacher," he said, "one thing you have to be very clear on." He said, "If at any moment Krishna wants to, he can strike me dumb." I was stunned. I realized how surrendered he was, how he realized he couldn't even speak a word if the Lord didn't empower it, the Lord didn't facilitate it. And that's a very deep underlying lesson in this Leela, that everything depends on Krishna. Everything depends on Krishna in two ways. We are completely dependent on Krishna for supply of everything. What else do you need to live? You need these things. So where are they coming from? Krishna's supplying. We are totally dependent on Krishna to be alive within the material world, to maintain life within a material body. We're totally dependent on Krishna. Totally. And so practicing dependence on Krishna means becoming conscious of that fact at all times, in all places, under all circumstances. But not only that, we are dependent on Krishna in the sense of how things are determined. Like you say, what's going to happen about this, that, and the other? And well, that depends. Well, ultimately, what does it depend on? Well, Krishna says, "Yayatamam prapadyante tang sataiva pajamyaham mamavat manuvatante manushapata savasha." That as they surrender, all of them, and he's talking about yogis of all ilk, and he says, as all of them, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. He said, everyone follows my path in all respects. This is another understanding of dependence on Krishna. Everything depends on Krishna. Everything and everyone. And then when you develop your understanding of the presence of Supersoul everywhere, in every situation, then you realize actually Yeah, Krishna's running the whole show. They say, well, it's probably more now, but back when I was involved in management, back in the 1980s, we were studying management, and we got some article that said every day on this planet there are 50 million meetings. And that was in the 1980s. God knows how many go on now. It said there are 50 million meetings every day, and most of them are a useless waste of time. But what you understand is that the Lord is present in that meeting within the hearts of everyone there. And he's balancing inconceivably complex factors for the right outcome according to those factors to come about. And no one's aware of that. Everybody's thinking, oh, we're working this out. We're working this out. It's down to us. This is because of the bewildering influence of the false ego, the first covering of the soul. Ahankara vimudatma, that verse. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai kamani savasha. Ahankara vimudatma kataham iti manyate. The bewildered living entity, bewildered by false ego. The bewildered living entity, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, thinks himself to be the doer of activities which are actually being carried out by nature. And that nature, what is the verse? Maya Jakshena Prakriti, yes, Sadhu, Pandit. What's the verse?
Maya Dikshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharachara Hetunamena Kauntiya Jagadvi Parivartate.
I am the Hetu. It's working under my direction, and I'm the cause of everything. Hetu means cause. Therefore, we have the word ahoitiki, causeless. So everything is happening, as Prabhupada says, everything is acting, moving under the supreme desire of Krishna. This consciousness is Krishna consciousness. Very simple. Very simple. But we all suffer as a result of our total bewilderment under the influence of false ego. It takes time. It's a gradual process. Prabhupada explains many places. A gradual and proportionate process. It takes time. It takes time to recover from the foreign nature. We didn't get as entangled in illusion as we are now just by some incident. We are in the state we're in the material world, in the Kali Yuga, as a result of a huge, complex chain of events in which we have been engaged with two weaknesses of the heart. Prabhupada talks about how when one is engaged in pure devotional service, in the association of pure devotees of the Lord, there are two things, he says, which have to be vanquished altogether. And he says, these things are weakness of the heart due to giving up devotional service to the Lord by virtue of attraction to matter. And then through attraction to matter, the desire to possess and enjoy matter becomes entrenched in the heart. And these two weaknesses of the heart cause us to become victims of our own bad choices. We make the wrong choice because this desire that we're talking about, Prabhupada describes it as the long cherished desire to dominate the material energy. Individually, familially, socially, nationally, globally, intergalactically, it's going on all through the phases of the creation. This desire to control and enjoy in the material world is deeply, deeply held, cherished. The nearest thing to the heart of the conditioned soul is this desire. Let me control and enjoy. Let me dominate this situation. And this desire to control Maya is what puts us under the control of Maya. There's a beautiful purport at the end of the 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where, you know the verse, Rohini, 529?
Oh, Bhaktaram Yagyatapasam Sarvalokam Ishwaram.
Yeah. Suridam Sarvabhutanam Yatva Mam Shanti Rachiti. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. And the second paragraph of the purport gives a rundown of what the 5th chapter is about. And Prabhupada gets right down to something very fundamental about halfway in. This 5th chapter is a practical explanation of Krishna consciousness, generally known as Karma Yoga. The question of mental speculation as to how Karma Yoga can give liberation is answered herewith. To work in Krishna consciousness is to work with the complete knowledge of the Lord as the predominator. Such work is not different from transcendental knowledge. And bearing that idea in mind, if you go back to the last part of the 4th chapter, which is called Transcendental Knowledge, and Krishna gives a summation of what leads to transcendental knowledge. And he said, there's nothing. Where is that? In this world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism, and one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. To work in Krishna consciousness is to work with the complete knowledge of the Lord as the predominator. Such work is not different from transcendental knowledge. Direct Krishna consciousness is Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga is a path leading to Bhakti Yoga. Krishna consciousness means to work in full knowledge of one's relationship with the Absolute, the Supreme Absolute. And the perfection of this consciousness is full knowledge of Krishna, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A pure soul is the eternal servant of God as his fragmental part and parcel. He comes into contact with Maya, illusion, due to his desire to lord it over Maya. Lost the place. And, he comes into contact with Maya, illusion, due to his desire to lord it over Maya. And that is the cause of his many sufferings. That is the cause of his many sufferings. As long as he is in contact with matter, he has to execute work in terms of material necessities. Krishna consciousness, however, brings one into spiritual life even while one is within the jurisdiction of matter, for it is an arousing of spiritual existence by practice in the material world. The Lord is not partial to anyone, Everything depends on one's practical performance of duties in Krishna consciousness, which helps one control the senses in every respect and conquer the influence of desire and anger. And one who stands fast in Krishna consciousness, controlling the above-mentioned passions, remains factually in the transcendental stage. So that's the 5th chapter. There's an arousal by virtue of spiritual practice. And that arousal is, Krishna describes in verse 16, that when, however, one is enlightened with that knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then that knowledge lights up everything as the sun lights up the day. And then he says, Tadatmanas tan buddhayas tan nishtas tat parayanaha gachat yananya what is it? Pandit? You don't remember? This is a great verse. I'm not ashamed of forgetting things. The book's always there. Well, there's a sequence of verses from verse 11 to verse 17 of the 5th chapter, which describes how yogis develop their consciousness and how that is interrelated with the Lord, and how it's related to desire. Verse 15 is very important about, if you want to understand the importance of desire, the central importance of desire in life, that purport is so lucid. But the verse says, the second half of the verse is what leads us into 16 and 17. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. Tad buddhayas, tadatmanas, tan nishtas tat parayana, gacchantya puna avritim jnana nirduta kaumasha. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. Actually, taking to the process of devotional service, surrendering to Krishna, puts us on the liberated platform. But we were just reading this morning about the verse, Tate nukampam shushamik shamano bunjana evama kritam vibhakam ridvagvapu pir vidadam namaste your jiva itam mukti padaya sadaya bhak. That even though Krishna says, you surrender to me, I will liberate you from all your sinful reactions. Prabhupada, in that purport to that verse, explains that one who goes on patiently, in the translation, one who goes on patiently undergoing the results of his past sinful activities, but with his hrid, his heart, his hrid vak, his voice, his words, and his hrid vak vapu, his body, engages in the devotional service of the Lord, patiently awaiting the mercy of the Lord, then total liberation becomes his inheritance. And the point Prabhupada makes is, although we may give up all kinds of sinful life and take to devotional service, but the deep impressions that linger within the mind, they need to be dealt with, because they can drag us down. So now and again, something will happen in our life that looks like a karmic reaction, but it's actually Krishna helping us cut away at an attachment in the material world. But we are on the liberated platform. It's like We're picked up and we're put into a bubble of liberation. It's an individual bubble, and those bubbles merge with other bubbles of people who are in the same situation, and we can offer support and help, and by maintaining the transcendental atmosphere. Like Vaisheshika Prabhu says, you keep the transcendental vibration going under all circumstances, somehow or another. You may get distracted, but you come back, you keep coming back, you keep coming back. And then we're faced with quite an enormous challenge when one's mind, intelligence, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme. Then we become cleansed of all doubts and fears, all misgivings by virtue of complete knowledge, and then proceed straight on the path of liberation. We're on the path of liberation, but we're still a little intoxicated. We're a little hungover. We're still maybe a little, now and again, just not too steady on our feet, not able to keep straight. We need a bit of treatment, actually, a little bit of mentoring, maybe a little slap from Krishna. Hey, get your mind back on the job. So it takes time. It's a gradual and proportionate process. But then it says, if one submits, Prabhupada says, if one submits to the hearing process from authoritative sources, gradually and proportionately, as one loses this long-held desire to dominate the material energy, then one comes to experience spiritual happiness from within. And the process of devotional service is so kind that you get that taste right from the beginning. You get that taste right from the beginning. And therefore, you can't forget it. You can't forget it. That's the kindness of the Lord. But of course, one should never consider that one won't forget it. I will never leave this. No. I've heard so many people say this. I'll never leave. And they leave. Because we can never underestimate the bewildering potency of the material energy of the Lord. The whole world. Tribir Gunamai Bhavaya E Bisavam Idang Jagat. The entire universe is bewildered. From Brahma down to the insignificant ants. Everyone is under the same bewilderment. That I am the doer. I can control this. I can manage this. I'm across this. I got this. And that's where the term bloop came from. When somebody left, I think it was in the early days in 26 Second Avenue. Somebody left and then somebody commented that yes, he was going to make a big splash in the material world. And Prabhupada said, yes, he just went bloop. And an example, if you take a stone and throw it in the water, it goes bloop. And where does it go? It just vanishes into the water. And we can fall under the illusion of thinking, yes, I'll go and I'll make $1 million and I'll come and give it back to Prabhupada. And 25, 30 years later, I come crawling back, being kicked from pillar to post, been through 2 broken marriages, got dysfunctional children, I got no money left, and whatever. And I come back just begging for some service. And in the meantime, I gave up chanting, I gave up hearing, I gave up offering my food to Krishna, and so on and so forth. It's a slippery slope, a gradual slippery slope. And Maya is pitiless. Pitiless. So there's always this very strong statutory warning that don't ever leave the association with devotees. Of course, you have to use your discrimination in terms of the depth of association you take with particular devotees. One has to learn to assess one's own situation within the modes of material nature, and by learning, by virtue of complete knowledge, which means you study the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita and understand what are the manifestations of the modes of material nature in terms of behavior, thinking, speaking, eating, sleeping, mating, defense, everything. Then you develop some discrimination as to the depth of association you're going to take with particular devotees. And you avoid the association with devotees who you know are going to trigger your lower impulses. You try to make friends with devotees who you understand are endeavoring the same sincerity as you are, and you take shelter and guidance from devotees you can see who are a little above all of that, by virtue of, more than anything, experience. Because quite often, bad experience, well, always, bad experience comes from bad judgment. You make a bad judgment, you get a bad experience. Good experience comes usually, because we're not on a first-class platform of intelligence, comes by virtue of reflection on bad results from bad choices, and then being a little more contemplative about the decisions one makes about what one does, where one goes, especially when one is on one's own. Especially in this age, the distractions of Maya are so omnipresent and so powerful. I mean, we've all got addictions to things in the material world, and Maya is, as it says, pitiless in her intrigues to lead you down the garden path where you think, oh yeah, it'll be all right if I just take shelter of something I shouldn't take shelter of. And in the beginning, that was all right. But then one thing leads to another, and before you know it, you're down the slippery slope. And a lot of people I've heard, they say, oh, well, so-and-so's left and he got engaged in illicit activities again. He went back to this, he went back to that. But when he hits rock bottom, he'll be back. Well, the major message in that is there is no rock bottom. There's no rock bottom. Prabhupada said, just as there's no end to the loving exchanges that can develop between you and Krishna, there is no end to the ways in which Maya can kick you. So it's very important to, you come back to like the anecdote of what happens here with Lord Brahma, what happened in my dealings with Charu, what happened with Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, is that the essential thing that we have to practice in devotional life is humility. The first point of knowledge that Krishna outlines in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is humility. Humility and pridelessness. Humility and pridelessness. You can't have humility and maintain pride. You can't be proud of your humility. You can't do that. You can't be, oh, I'm very proud of my humility. Well, yeah. Or I'm very humble about my pride. It's nonsense. You're going to be humble or you're going to be prideful. And therefore, humble is required. Chant the holy name in a humble state of mind. And the coordinate from which humility develops is this understanding that I am totally dependent upon Krishna. In any phase of life, in any condition of life, I'm totally dependent upon Krishna. And I have to practice that. And Krishna, he gives very nice encouragement. He says, Chaitasa savakamani mai sanyasya matpara buddhi yoga upasritya machchita satatambhava. Machchita savadurgani matprasadat tarishyasi atachet tvam ahankaran na soshasi na shroshasi vinakshasi. In all activities, just depend upon me and work under my protection. And then he says, in such devotional service, become fully conscious of me. Very simple. Devotional service is very simple. Just completely depend upon Krishna and work under his protection. That's devotional service. And in such devotional service, become fully conscious of me. If you become conscious of me, you will cross over all the obstacles of conditional life by my grace. It's personal, the grace of the Lord. The grace of the Lord. And he says, if you do not hear me, but act out of false ego, then you will be lost. So we'll stop there. What is it? 9:01. Any questions or comments from anyone?
Well, we could maybe go to Zoom first this time, Prabhu, so they all have time.
Anyone have any questions on Zoom?
Yeah, please raise a hand if you would like to ask a question or share a realization after hearing those wise words. Maybe we've shocked them by going to them first.
Or either that, they're all asleep. Yes, Gillian. Gillian, then Jennifer. Hello?
Thank you so much.
That's all right. What's the question?
No, there isn't one.
There isn't one. Well, okay. Jennifer?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I wasn't going to say anything today because you gave me so much time yesterday, but I'm sure that everyone benefited greatly from what you said when I asked my question. But I did have a little question, which was when you were talking about one of the big problems that Prabhupada highlights is our desire to possess or enjoy matter. I can't remember the exact word that you used.
Yeah.
But you were talking about, yes, matter. Does that also, I'm sure it does, but does that also include attachment to people in various ways and subtle forms of material enjoyment / possession, like certain qualities?
Well, the short answer is yes. But you can't falsely renounce something that you have an attachment for without getting what is called a higher taste. In the second chapter, you make a note of this, in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, verse number 59, Krishna says, Vishaya vinivatante niraharasya dehina rasapyasyam rasopyasya param drishtva nivatate. This is a very powerful verse. It says, although the embodied living being may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects still remains. Then it's a pivot. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, one becomes fixed in consciousness. So one is advised to gradually, not necessarily instantaneously, but gradually put down one's roots in terms of these things you're talking about, relationships especially, with the association of devotees who are practicing a higher living, attempting to live on and practice life on a higher level of consciousness. That doesn't mean you turn your back on friends and relatives and so on, or it may lead to that in some cases, because we're advised as we begin to practice devotional service in the book called The Nectar of Instruction to engage in those things which are conducive for the development of our devotion and avoid those things which are not conducive. And sometimes that leads to some quite hard choices. But in the meantime, whether it's a hard choice or a soft choice, the way in which one creates a level of detachment and therefore an ability to be dutiful when you need to be is through the association of devotees. So you can't just break off your association with non-devotees without developing your relationship with devotees. And you don't necessarily have to break off relationships in a sudden or convulsive way. But what you can do in it all is, back to my point, practice depending on Krishna. He'll stage manage the whole thing in such a way that you will become relieved of all that is a burden to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Might I just add one small thing? What you've said is very helpful, and funnily enough, something like that has happened recently with a friend.
Really?
Yes. Can I just ask whether this that you've just spoken about can also refer to or relate to people who have left their bodies, who were members of one's family, that one might have attachments to, strong attachments to still?
Well, it's kind of like the example of when a little child has got a box of matches and you want to get them away from the child, then you have to distract them with something that they would prefer to have, and they don't notice that the box of matches goes away. So that's the second half of the verse that I said. Ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste. There's something in your heart that is causing you to remain attached to something that doesn't even exist anymore. But if you depend on Krishna and take shelter of Krishna through the association of the devotees in the practice of hearing and chanting and doing devotional activities, you have to do something for Krishna. It can't just remain a mental exercise. You have to give something to Krishna. And Krishna then enters into reciprocation with you and clears your path. Otherwise, we remain hopelessly lost in the forest of illusions. But it's a gradual thing. It can't be forced. Nobody can force anything. But you have to want it. Like they say at Weight Watchers, you got to want it. If you don't want to do something, what's the point? Everyone tries to do what they want to do. Doesn't matter what you say or do. People end up trying to do what it is they want to do. So one has to want to get back into one's relationship with Krishna and work under Krishna's protection. And part of Krishna's protection is the kind of mental bogeyman that you're talking about. There's all kinds of doubts and fears, and they take on mental forms, and they hamper us in so many ways. So you just have to focus a little bit more on the fact that Krishna is your dearmost friend, and he loves you, and he wants you to come back into relationship with him. He knows it's for your best interest, and he knows how to do it for you. He knows how to clear the path and do it in such a way that you're not going to be crippled by doubt or fear or shame or guilt or any of these mental bogeys. Is that clear?
Yes, thank you very much indeed.
Yes.
Hare
Yes.
Krishna.
Trust Krishna and trust yourself that the feelings you have for Krishna are real. The fact that you're here now, after what you've been through in all the years you've been through it and all the association you had, you're here. Well, why is that? Because you want to be. So go with it. Go with it. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. And trust Krishna. And you'll become a very happy girl.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions in the room?
Well, I think,
Yeah.
Jillian, if I'm not sure if you've put another hand up, you're very welcome to ask a question or share a realization, but it
Thank
can't
you.
be agreed into you just crying on Zoom.
I won't be.
All
I'm
right,
not.
okay.
I am crying, but I'm not crying. Will you, that guy, Richard? Is it Richard? I'm sorry, I don't know your name, Prabhu. Will you be there this afternoon?
Yes.
Thank
Will
you.
you?
And will it be all right to ask you anything that I have got a few things that I wanted to talk about, but obviously not on this particular forum.
Well,
Would it be?
you can make an appointment to see me tomorrow. I've got scheduled time to talk to people one-on-one.
Wow, maybe, but hopefully I will see you this afternoon. And thank you for all your energy and effort, considering you're poorly. Hare Krishna.
My pleasure. Thank you. Hare Krishna. I've not met you, have I?
No.
I've not met you. No. Well, I look forward to meeting you.
Oh,
Hare Krishna.
really? Don't do. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Not me. No, not me. Nobody wants to meet me.
All right, thank you, Jillian. Okay, then into the room. What do we have from the assembled devotees? Ask a question or share a realization if you wish.
Sorry.
Ladies first.
I was thinking about what you were saying about the intrigues of Maya and the false ego and getting completely absorbed back into that rather than taking shelter of Krishna. And you can actually, as you go along the path of Krishna consciousness in your devotional service, you can actually watch it happening, or I've observed it in myself anyway. And I just like the fact that you said about Krishna being the doer, because if you take shelter of that realization and step aside from the false ego and just understand that you really are a servant of Krishna, and just keep praying through your chanting to be an instrument. Hopefully one day that will really work.
Well, I heard a beautiful thing last year with Indradumna Swami, that is Vyasaputra of the Manor. He was talking about the Maha Mantra, and he was talking about how generally Prabhupada, when he's asked about what's the meaning of the mantra, he says, "Oh, my Lord, O energy of the Lord, please engage me in your service." Now, I never got back to him to get the reference of this, but he said he heard one of these things where somebody asked Prabhupada that, what is the meaning of the mantra? And Prabhupada said, "Oh, my friend, my friend. This is something very, very important that we all have to open our hearts to, that Krishna is our friend, always has been, always will be, never judges us, never condemns us. But because we come under the influence of illusion, we say, well, why has God done this to me? Without understanding that we're the cause of our own bewilderment. So this is very important. Suhridam, Prabhupada in one lecture talks about the different types of friendship. He talks about how Maitreya is Vyasadeva Saka. Saka is a friend. He's a friend of Vasudev's. And then there's Vipra. He's my certain kind of friend. And Atma Bandhu, another kind of friendship. And then he says, and then there's Surit. He said, this is the deepest, most intimate form of friendship, in that when you think of this person, all you think of is, oh, my dear friend, what can I do for this person? And Krishna's always thinking like that in regard to each living being in the material world. We've just been so much immersed in Maya for so long. Like I talked at the end of the talk yesterday about how it's very difficult to contemplate the reality that here is the Supreme Being standing before us, offering himself to us as our dearmost friend. And all we have to do is ask for what it is we want.
Your devotional service. That's what I want.
Well, it's a question of refinement.
Yeah.
Krishna knows what you want. Well, your debutante knows what you need, but I know what you want. Krishna knows exactly what lingers in the heart. And therefore, you have to allow him to take charge and clear the way, which he does. Prabhupada says in that 5:15, he's present in the heart of every living entity, and he's aware of everyone's desire as one can smell the flavor of a flower by being near it. So it's a question of refinement of desire. And that means refinement means becoming aware of the lingering impurities. And those two things Prabhupada describes in the verse of 1:2:17, the Srinvatam Swakata Krishna verse. Srinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Yabhadrani Vidunoti Surit Satam. And there he says, the two attachments, the two causes of our attachment to the material energy are women and money. And he says, and it takes time to recover from this foreign atmosphere, foreign condition. So it's not, Prabhupada says, we're not stones. We're not stones. It doesn't mean we see an attractive woman or an attractive man that we're not aware of that oh, that person's attractive. And it's not wrong that we think, oh, if I had a lot of money, I could do a lot of service. But then underneath all of that, you have to understand these things can lead us down the rabbit hole very quickly, because we come to the material world saying, I will serve you. I will serve you. Let me go. I'll serve you. I'll never forget you. No, can't underestimate the material energy. So, but it's very important to embrace, no matter what, how degraded you may feel yourself to be, how unqualified you may feel yourself to be, embrace the mercy of the Lord, the grace of the Lord, the lotus feet of the Lord, the well-wishing of the Lord. Embrace it, take it into your life. And in the beginning, it's like, you're like a baby, you just want, you got this big napkin on and you just give me, like a baby. And everything's, your breakfast's all over the place, but you just want to get in. But then you grow up and you wash out the napkin and you fold it up over your wrist and you say, now how may I serve you? So Krishna is very tolerant of our ineptitudes and our inabilities. Nobody understands the material energy like Krishna. Nobody has the wherewithal to help us like Krishna. And nobody has Krishna's compassion. So take advantage. Take advantage of the goodwill of the Lord, no matter how big a rascal you think yourself to be, or no matter if things lead, as Krishna says, apichet sudaracharo, you may fall down to the most abominable activity. But Krishna uses the word sadhu only twice in the Bhagavad Gita. In the 4th chapter, to explain how he comes paritranaya sadhu, I come to protect the sadhus. But then he says in the 9th chapter, a devotee may fall down to the most abominable activity, but he is to be considered sadhu because his determination is correct. But Maya's relentless. So no matter how staunch and strong you may be, like Prabhupada used to say, in like a needle, out like a plow. And Radhanath Swami put a twist on that. He said, in like a needle, out like a multi-warhead intercontinental ballistic missile. That's the age we're in. Oh, just, she'll do it. If she has the opportunity, she'll do it. So, and the only recourse is the lotus feet of the Lord. The only recourse. And Krishna's always available. Always available. Right? We got time for this?
I have to ask another time.
Why?
Is this like, it's not a little question.
Well, it might just need a little answer. You never know.
No.
Big question? Yes. Or no. Come on, ask the question.
It was you're talking about independence.
Sorry?
Independence and how Krishna's the doer. So I've heard it discussed quite a lot, but I still never really understand what's going on. It's just like how we can use our independence, the small amount of independence we have. How can we like engage with the independence that we have?
You take to the practices of devotional service with determination and sincerity. Plus, determine, the nice word, determine, determination. There has to be a line. No more. Now this.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it comes to. That's the only way we understand you can deal with your material addiction. That's the basis of Alcoholics Anonymous. No more. How do you stop smoking? You don't have the first one tomorrow morning. You don't have the next one. How do you stop drinking? You don't take the next drink. That's determination. A termination, there's a line. And D means from that, then I make steps. I take steps. And those steps are laid out very clearly in the practices of bhakti, in the association of more experienced devotees. And as the saying goes, don't look back. Don't look back. And what did the angel of the Lord said to Lot, take your wife and walk out of here and don't look back. Out of Sodom and Gomorrah. So he walked out, but she looked back. She turned to a pillar of salt. You cannot afford to look back. Krishna he understands, all right, you may have a weakness or whatever, and you may look back, or you may glance over your shoulder, but you get a pretty hard slap. And you realize, oh, no way, I'm not doing that. And that's mercy. Very simple. Prabhupada used to say, this Krishna consciousness is so simple, you can miss it. Never give up, always show up, no matter what state you're in. The worst state you're in is that's the time you must come to the temple and present yourself before the Lord in all humility. And the Lord reciprocates. It's personal, very personal thing. It's just that, we've got a lot of illusions in our mind. And Maya uses them to trip us up, create doubt and fear. Doubt and fear. Itanya vidyavananam ichatam akutobayam yoginam nripaniyanitam harinam anakirtanam. This is a very interesting verse in the second canto of the Bhagavatam, just after Sukadeva Goswami has explained to Maharaj Pariksit that he's going to recite the Bhagavatam to him as he heard it from Vyasadeva. Then he says this verse, and he says that it doesn't matter whether you're ichatam, whether you have all material desires, or whether you're self-satisfied by virtue of your detachment, or you have I can't remember the third category. He says, the doubtless and fearless way for all is to chant the holy name of the Lord after the ways of the great authorities. And this puts us directly in association with the Lord. There's no difference between Srimad Bhagavatam and the holy name of the Lord. And we might not be fully aware of the medicine working, but generally speaking, that's the case. When you're sick, when you first take the medicine, it's not like, I'm cured. But then you wake up the next morning, you feel better. Because the medicine works. But you have to take your meds. And the medicine is, the essential medicine is the chanting, the hearing and the chanting. The root med means appropriate measures. You have to take appropriate measures. It means you do certain things and you stop doing other things. And stick to it. Human beings have the propensity to give up. But people who succeed are people actually who never give up, even though they may fail more than anyone else. Just imagine if Prabhupada had given up. He had every reason to. Old man, sick, no fixed abode, nobody he could depend on, no secure income. He got things stolen from him. He had his life threatened by a crazy man, and so on and so forth. What to speak of what he had to go through before he left India. But that year in America, that first year in America, who would have blamed him? Oh, it's just too hard. Just go back to Vrindavan and live your life out. And if he'd gone back, nobody would have said, oh, Abba, you're a wuss. Why didn't you stay? Nobody would have done that. But he never gave up. And if he did, this wouldn't be happening. So there's the example, the shining example. But you can extrapolate that into all kinds of material situations. People who succeed at what they are endeavoring to do are people who fail more than anyone else, but they don't give up. Okay? So keep your chin up, look forward, and just stick with it. You're doing very well. You're doing very well. Yes. Hare Krishna. Well, how's that, Dad? 2:29 and counting.
Do we have any more questions?
9:29. You got how many seconds?
10, 9, 8.
You got 40 seconds.
40 seconds.
Anything more?
Okay.
Don't hold back if you'd like to ask anything or share anything. No.
No? Okay. Well, Hare Krishna, everybody. I hope everybody can make it to the Sunday feast, the Sunday love feast. Makes your day, makes your week, actually, to get a dose of real love, transcendental love. So I hope we see you all, Gillian, Jennifer, Lorna. See you this afternoon. And anyone who wants to have some one-on-one time with myself and or my wife, you can make appointments with Priya Kun Prabhu today. We're available all day tomorrow. And you're all welcome. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhova eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Bhagavat Prabhu. Thank you for joining us on Zoom. And yeah, please join us this afternoon if you're able. Harinam just after 3. Program starts at 4 p.m. So the usual schedule. Grantara Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Shri Prahlad Nrsimha Ki Shri Nitai Gaura Sunda Ki His Grace Bhagavat Ashraya Prabhu Ki Vaishnav Sangha Vaishnav Seva Ki Nitai Gaura
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.